I'm Dave. I'm one of the feature film committee members with the GRFF Film Festival, and I'm here talking with Max, who is the co-writer and director of Stanleyville, which is showing as part of our in-person showings at the Apollo Cinema. Max, thank you for chatting with us today.
My pleasure.
Excellent. I want to start back with a story, if we could, because this is one of those films that I really enjoyed, and I kind of want to know where it came from. So what was that initial idea that you got for this film? How did you work your way into this concept?
My co-writer Rob worked in the financial district of Toronto for, I don't know, S&P or one of those finance companies. He actually writes like the pros for their ratings and stuff. So he and I guess he was spending some time down in this underground mall in Toronto called The Path, which is just like miles of windowless food courts and stuff. And he either saw a woman sitting at a table down there that just looked kind of lost, or he thought this is the kind of place where somebody could just be lost. It's, you know, psychologically lost. And it seemed like, I mean, he writes fiction too, like he writes novels too. So I don't know if he was thinking of a book or a short story or something like that, but he had just this image of somebody sitting in a, you know, in like a modern sort of waiting, like a, you know, a nothing, like a non-place, that just whatever was going through her head, he thought it was a good sort of starting point for a story. And then we, it was kind of, I mean, it was kind of like, how do we write something that that can be done on a low budget? Like I kind of knew how much money I could semi-realistically pull together in a short amount of time. So we wrote something that was like a, you know, a cabin in the woods type formula. And then so it was a little bit like, you know, evolved backwards from, okay, small cast, you know, minimal location, you know, and then we just sort of, you know, made it up from there.
For sure. So Rob Benvey, your co-writer on this, you've worked with him before on Midnight Confession, right? He wrote that for you. That was the short that you did.
Yeah, we wrote it together too. Yeah.
Excellent. What does that collaboration look like for you? Writing relationships can be kind of strange and everyone's unique. How do you effectively collaborate together?
I guess we sort of just meet, like, you know, we try and meet at least once a week, but he's got a toddler and you know, a day job and stuff. So I'm a little bit beholden to his schedule, but we try and meet like once a week, usually in the evening. And at the beginning, we would just sort of build out the basic story ideas, and then we just kind of, okay, I'll write, you know, from here to here, you write from here to here, and then we just swap back and forth. It's not like, it's kind of what you'd think. It's not so complicated. It ends up sometimes being that one guy will write more dialogue for one character because they sort of get into the voice of that character, or like it just seems like those scenes work better for one writer than the other. But it's pretty collaborative. It's a lot of like overwriting and then editing, you know, like a 2-page scene usually starts as a 6-page scene, and then we have fun taking pieces out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then occasionally we'll kind of spend like a solid few days. When the script gets to a certain point, we'll say, okay, like let's take 3 days and like go up north or something. And like I have a place up north that we can spend, like, if I can extract him from his job and his family, we can spend like a few days just really beating the hell out of it.
Excellent. Interesting. The one thing that you said there that really kind of caught for me was that 6 pages turning into 2. Yeah. And with an ensemble cast and the way that these characters are written, there's definitely a lot of what could be going on in these characters.
Maybe I should have done some more of that.
I was kind of interested because you've got this ensemble cast, and ensemble casts always have their kind of own energy. So I'm curious as to how much of those characters were worked out on the page versus how much developed in the room as you were actually going through the filming process.
In this case, just given the urgency of the shoot, and there wasn't really that much experimenting on set. It was like, I mean, certainly when the actors brought like their own sort of ideas to the characters, but as far as kind of like improvising or elaborating, there wasn't a lot of time or opportunity to do that. It was kind of like, okay, we've got to shoot like 7 pages of nonstop talking, so
yeah,
the main thing is just to make sure that everybody knows their dialogue and that we can get through this day. So I mean, there was some things probably at the beginning. I did have a few days of rehearsal with the actors, which was nice because we could figure those things out. But once we were shooting, it was pretty much like, there weren't a lot of changes on the day.
Interesting. How many days did you have for this?
I think we shot like 20 days, but then I went, or maybe it was like 18 days. And then the beginning of the movie where that takes place in Germany, like there's that mall stuff and the house with the daughter and all that, we shot in like a day and a half in Germany after.
Okay.
But that was like, I don't know, 6 months after we shot the bulk of it, which we did in Hamilton in this warehouse.
Yeah, it was a very interesting location, and I absolutely do want to talk about that. But I was interested because you mentioned that you shot some of this in Germany, and that cast is split between Canadians and Europeans. And I was curious, how did you come to that? Where did that come from?
Before we were even in like pre-production, I had this idea that I wanted to shoot the movie in Germany because I have some friends in Germany, and I had another actor that I've worked with before that's there, and that in one incarnation of the movie he was going to be playing the Andrew character, and I was like, this like I'll just bring a few people to Germany and shoot it there. And then so I guess I got kind of attached to like the opening at least being in Germany, and it's sort of taking place in somewhere between Germany and Neptune or whatever. And like, so once we sort of put the financing together, it just wasn't realistic for the amount of money that was available to do it. But I guess just that little beginning sojourn to like, after the principal photography, when we went to Germany to shoot that, it was done like very shoestring. And so I got to have my little, we shot in Germany. Okay, Max. But I'd done something before, like I shot a short film in Germany before in Berlin called Midnight Confession that I actually shot there. And it was just like, oh, this is a fun place to shoot. And as far as casting, I kind of wanted, which was your original question, was like the cast being half European, like I wanted to have an unrecognizable cast in a certain way. Like, I mean, everybody recognizes Julian Richings, not everybody, but he's a recognizable face. And two of the other actors, George and Cara, are Canadian. But I wanted the main character of Maria to be, I don't know, I had it in my head that she was Austrian or German, and I really liked that movie, Goodnight Mommy, and I saw her in that, and so we just made her this offer, and luckily she was into it. And then for the other characters, I just wanted them to be not recognizable. Like I didn't want the movie to look like it was from Canada, and I didn't want it to look like it was from Germany. I didn't want it to look like it was from anywhere except my brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was trying to make it like an eclectic cast full of, I just wanted it to be neutral, I wanted it to, like, it's a strange movie, and I mean, so I hear, but I didn't want it to feel like anything specific or necessarily recognizable.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Julian, it was Julian Richings. It was one of those things where I saw the trailer and I'm like, I think I need to see this movie. And then I saw the rest of the movie and I was like, yes, this was absolutely the right choice. You have a previous working relationship with Julian, other things that you've worked on. You've got a history there. Was he always in your mind as part of this, or was this something that he came on board to later?
That character, I always kind of had Julian, like I do know him. We're good friends. He lives like 2 blocks away from me. I often go over and we have like afternoon tea and a little cup of metaxa, which is it's sort of like Greek brandy or something. He's like, he was, I don't think that character wasn't written specifically with Julian in mind, but then once it got going and I was like, oh, we're going to shoot it here, I just asked him if he would be interested in doing it. And he read it and it was pretty easy. Like, we're pretty friendly. So it was kind of easy. And I'm lucky that he was into it. Yeah, we had worked together as actors on a few things. And then he did like a little voice part in a short film. And yeah, I mean, we have like an affinity for each other because we're both like, we get cast as like the weird guy. Him more than I, but we've definitely like, we're atypical faces, I guess, in the casting of like everybody else looks like, Paul Gross knockoffs or something.
Absolutely. Going to Julian a little bit more and actually talking about performance. I noticed, and feel free to correct me if I'm completely off base on this, but I feel like there's almost a shared kind of unique delivery between Homunculus and Maria. There's a kind of a flat affect between them and an interesting rhythm to their dialogues. They both have a certain kind of rhythm into how they're delivering things. And I was curious if that was intentional, if that was what you were going for.
Definitely with the homunculus character, he's supposed to be kind of like a glitchy android sort of. I mean, he's not an android, but I mean, the dialogue is so weird for homunculus that however he wanted to deliver it was okay with me, because it's kind of nonsensical. And it definitely doesn't come off like somebody that has a lot of emotion. And for Maria, that character, I think it was kind of written a little bit deadpan, but then also with Susanna, like she just kind of, there wasn't a lot of direction as far as the cadence or delivery of the lines. I think it was kind of, I mean, she's kind of removed. She sort of has believes that she's, specially chosen for some kind of, there's like a fatalistic sort of religious perspective that she has, which I think up until there's some emotional stuff in there, but I don't know if it's like if that character, she's kind of like watching a lot and not really interjecting so much and saying things. So, but no, not specifically. I don't think I didn't really directed that way anyways.
Okay. The characters all feel like they're kind of playing a different game. Maria more so than everyone else. She's kind of in her own thing. And you've got these archetypal representations of kind of these things that Maria is basically trying to cut out of her reality. And I was curious as to how you came to those archetypes and those particular representations. Was there a reason behind choosing the ones that you did?
Yeah, I mean, because we wanted to, when me and Rob wrote it, we were like, let's not try and make this too complicated. There's already a lot of stuff going on. Let's just make these characters cartoonish, like they were supposed, like they were archetypes. It was like, it's like the dumb strong guy and the wannabe capitalist with a rich father who hates him. It's like we were not dealing with complex characters because it actually kind of, I mean, I wanted it to be a little bit like a Looney Tunes cartoon. Like I wanted there to be like really blunt tools that you could do to, you could say something with. It wasn't, it was just kind of like, yeah, there are like other aspects of those characters, but I mean, part of it comes from my own, maybe it's just how I see the world. I personally think that people are pretty, you know, they're pretty simple. I don't think it's so complicated. I think everybody's kind of the same, and we all have the same sort of foibles, and so an archetype is not so different from, you know, a more complex character. I fall into like my own archetype all the time. I mean, it's so, but I didn't want to go also with an ensemble cast. I didn't want to be like a lot of twists and turns with the characters. I wanted it to be like, okay, we got to spend, there's 5 people or 6 people here, so let's not overcomplicate the you know, the backstory, or like, I want people to understand what kind of person Andrew is. Like, it's not a big reveal that his father probably thought he was a loser, you know, like it's kind of expected. Like, it wasn't, that's not where the twists and turns are. The characters were supposed to be sort of cartoonish, I guess.
Wind them up and let them go.
Yeah. Like, you know what you're getting, I think, with this. I mean, it was kind of an attempt to make the movie, like, all of this, the absurdism and the surrealism of the movie, if people find that hard to follow or confusing, then, you know, that's fine, but they won't find the characters hard to follow or confusing, or at least that was the intention, you know. It was also supposed to be like a competition of archetypes. It's like the physically strong guy versus the, you know, conniving smart woman versus the vain, you know, moron who thinks he's on reality television. Like, it was supposed to be like all of these modern archetypes that were going up against each other, you know, in like this Olympic of failure, or so it was like, keep it simple.
Absolutely. Thank you. I did have a question about the location. I'd gone back and I'd watched Ape Sodom and Midnight Confession earlier this week, and the one thing, aside from kind of the sense of style and the humor behind them, what really stuck out was the locations, because there are a lot of very interesting, intriguing, and chaotic locations, and this is no exception. So this was shot in Hamilton in a single space, and I'm curious, how did that space come together? How did you find that? How did you build it up?
Oh man. Well, yeah, I appreciate that you say that. I am a bit of a location fetishist. It's really important to me. Maybe it's because I spent so many years working as a carpenter. Like, I after high school, I just worked as a carpenter for, like, even before I was working in the film industry, and I still do it occasionally. But okay, so how do we find it? It was, in the script, it was written in a way where it was like, okay, we needed a main room, we needed a bedroom for one character, we needed a bedroom for another character. The main room had to have windows. Like, it was actually kind of specific, and it was either going to be that we built the set on a stage, which I never wanted to do, because for the amount of money that we had, it would have just looked like, you know, so chintzy. So me and the producer just looked at a bunch of available places, and there was this rotting old cotton factory in Hamilton that was slated for demolition. And we managed to, there was just this room that was basically the bones of what was written. I mean, and then, so when I say the bones, I mean like the rotten, dog chewed, like disassembled bones. It was a complete disaster. And me and my brother and Haley, the producer, and like whoever I could get my hands on, we went in there and like cleaned it up. And I put like, I spent 6 weeks, 7 days a week, waking up at 7 a.m, driving to Hamilton, working for 12 hours, driving home, sleeping, and built that place and like painted it. And there was no electricity, there's no running water, like there was none of that stuff was in there. There was no kitchenette, there was no shelves, there was no, you know, it was just like a destroyed kind of Chernobyl looking warehouse thing, but the layout basically worked. So yeah, we just built it, like built the scoreboard, like I hand painted all of those names. And so like, I was just working on it nonstop for about 3 months before we started shooting, like I'm making the props in my apartment, you know, and so it was just like, it was a combination of it being like the right basic structure for the set and just a lot of elbow grease.
Cool. There's one minor detail that probably seems superfluous, but I am very curious about it. The fire bell. The fire bell beside the board. Was that already in the location, or did you put that up?
No,
okay.
No. Like literally every single thing was. It was just. I mean, I wish I had a picture of what it looked like before. It was just like cement walls with holes in them. Like it was. Yeah. No, we put but the fire bell was in the building, because sometimes I would go around the building. It was just massive. It was like a city block sized building, and I salvaged a lot of the material just from around the building. Like the doors have this sort of like it's they've got like a textured like design on them. Like I just found those panels like in the building. There's a lot of stuff that was just, we just scavenged from around there. And the bell is one of those things. It was just like downstairs in an empty area. I just took it off the wall and brought it upstairs and put it on.
It's such a great moment, and it's one that sticks in my head, is Julian with the hammer and hitting that bell. So I'm glad that was an intentional design choice. That makes me happy to hear that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So kind of moving away from location and stuff, I did have a kind of an open question, which was about basically from start to end. Was there something in there along that process that had to be cut, either, you know, for story reasons, financial reasons, for whatever reason, even just to trim down the end runtime of the movie? Was there anything in there that was cut that a part of you, like, if we could have put that in there, I would have loved that?
The short answer is no. Excellent. But one of the reasons for that is because of the structure of the movie, where there's 8 rounds. Like I kind of knew this, that I was painting myself into a corner, because it's nice when you can cut stuff. Believe me, I love cutting stuff, and I've cut things out of that, you know, in the edit, like, okay, well, that was a clunky scene, let's just get rid of it. I'm all for that. But this movie, because there was 8 rounds, I mean, there's certainly, like, there was some sections of dialogue that were cut, but entire scenes weren't really cut, because it's so, like, you have to have the round, and then you have to have the contestants doing the round, and then you have to have the judgment of the round, and then you have to have the next round. You know what I mean? Like, there was only, I couldn't rearrange them, and I couldn't remove something whole cloth, because it would leave, you can't go from round 5 to round 7 with no, you know, round 6. Or so a lot of it was sort of built in, which made me sort of nervous when we were shooting, because I was like, if one of these is bad, I just got to live with it, you know. But certainly there's like chunks of dialogue that, I mean, that's something that you find out on the day, so that the characters can either change on the day or force you to change. It's like something that might seem funny on the page, it's just not funny when somebody says it. There, you know, that stuff just goes. So there's a lot of stuff, that little things that got cut, but no, there's no like scene where, you know, Homunculus like kills Maria and then she comes back to life. No, it's all pretty much the same as it was on the page.
Yeah, I thought maybe that with the structure and the style that you're working with, you probably went through a whole bunch of different games before you settled on settled on. There was some games, there was some rounds that was like, what the, I remember there was a round that we had written, it was like something about, it was like I think the one with the nose peg, originally it was nose peg, the clothes peg. It was originally like people dunking their head in a tank of water. And I had like devised ways of giving them like a breathing apparatus when they put, and I was just like, I can't shoot something where people get wet, because there's no fucking resets, you know, like this isn't a Hollywood movie where I can soak somebody down and then wait for their hair to dry and shoot it again. You know, it was like, all right, forget the water, we'll just do it with clothes pegs. And there's something kind of viscerally beautiful about watching these 5 people in their chairs just squirming in.
Oh yeah, I like it better. It's more cartoonish, it's more Looney Tunes actually.
Absolutely, yeah, it's really fantastic. That's one of my favorite out of all the games. I really like that one. I think a lot of people are sick of talking about the pandemic, but I think it's relevant to this conversation. This was shot before the pandemic started, correct?
Yeah.
But it's been making the rounds through the festivals, and you've been actively promoting this film during pandemic times. So has this changed how you approach being an artist or how you approach art?
The pandemic?
Yeah, yeah. As a writer, as a director, as an actor, as any of those.
I mean, I was kind of lucky that we shot it before there were like measures taken, and then I was also kind of lucky that it the when what was it, April 2019 or was it 2020 when it first 2020?
March 2020 is when a
Yeah,
lot
it
of
was
stuff
like
shut down in Canada.
yeah, that so the industry, like the film industry, just like in like March, April, everything, all of the stuff that was shooting, at least here, I think everywhere, just went on pause. Like nobody would insure these productions. So I had been editing with Graham, and then we sort of like took it to a certain, this editor Graham Tucker, and we sort of took it to a certain point, and then it was like, okay, it's going to need more work, you know. And this other editor, Duff Smith, who I've worked with on some other projects, he was supposed to shoot a movie in April, and then it didn't happen. So he was, so there was this year, like that first section of the pandemic. Remember, everyone was just like, I was like washing fruit with fucking alcohol swabs. It's like everything. So I just ended up spending like 3 or 4 months with the second editor, Duff, at his apartment, editing without any deadlines, without any interruptions. And we bubbled, and we just got into this movie and like really worked over every frame as best we could. And that was like amazing that, you know, he's a friend. He did it for zero money, you know. He was just like, well, we got nothing else to do. The world is on lockdown. So I actually got to like kind of really work, like get into the weeds of this movie because of the gap that was left by the pandemic. And then but the bummer was that like finishing it, you know, it's like gets into festival. I mean, like, you know, the festivals as yours is like opening, like it's in person again, but for the first, like it premiered at Fantasia and there was no Fantasia. Like I think there was a couple in-person screenings, but like the bulk of the movies were not. And it was kind of a bummer. It's like you want to go places, you know, and like but no, I didn't change. Like I mean, I'm already a pretty cynical person, so the pandemic didn't change my outlook on things. I don't want it. I'm glad I don't have to shoot a movie. I've done like acting jobs where I was on set for a long time. I did this like TV series last summer, and it was pretty miserable being on set, like with like COVID protocols. It's like you can't hang out with people. There's no like outside like fraternizing or sororizing. I don't know what the dual gender term for fraternity is, but the like so it's kind of like more factory work. It's like you know, you feel like more like a meat puppet when you're an actor on those sets. I think it's hard to bond with people. It's hard to hear what the director's saying because they're wearing a mask and then they're wearing a visor over the mask. It's just like, it fucking sucks. Like it's miserable. It's not fun. And it's hard to, it's actually, I think I feel sorry for people that had to shoot stuff during a pandemic. It's expensive. I didn't have to, so I'm not complaining. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. So I would personally like to encourage people to go see your 2 shorts that you have up on your Vimeo. So Abe Sodom and Midnight Confession. Beyond that, what's next for you? Is there anything that you'd like to tell people is coming up?
I'm writing another movie with Rob. I mean, we're just kind of getting into it. Same guy I wrote Stanleyville with, and yeah, I mean, I don't have plans to shoot anything. I mean, the good thing about like, even though this thing was shot a couple of years ago, it's brand new, man. Like I don't have to, I don't feel like an obligation. I'm not resting on my laurels or anything, but I'm like, you know, it's like we're like done the first draft of a script, and like, and then I've started another script on that I'm writing on my own. That's a kind of different style thing, a little bit less cynical maybe, or I don't know, a little bit more straight ahead. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'm doing things, but I don't have anything immediately on the horizon. I think I have like a couple acting jobs coming up, but you know, those are just to pay the bills usually.
Absolutely. Yeah, it sounds good. I am very excited to see this in a theater with an audience. When I first caught it was at Fantasia last year, which is one of the reasons that I really wanted to push to get this into Grand River Film Festival.
Thank you.
So yeah, I'm very excited to see this in an audience with people in a theater. I'm very much looking forward to that.
I hope people like it or liked it. I think it's, yeah, I think it's fun. I don't know. People say, I've heard that it's like a strange movie, and I don't think it's that weird. It kind of makes, I think it makes real, it's kind of goofy, but it's like, it's very cause and effect. But I wonder if I'm crazy sometimes.
From my perspective, I think the story and the story that you're trying to tell, the plot is very straightforward. It's the characters that are offset, and I think that's what throws people a little bit. Is they're just like, there's something weird going on here, and I don't know what it is. I think the story's weird, and I disagree. I think it's the characters, and the characters are supposed to be off-putting.
All right. Okay, I'm not crazy. Thank you.
No, not at all. Excellent. Yeah, I think we're good at this point. Thank you so much for chatting with me today, Max. It's been a pleasure. I'm, like I said, so looking forward to seeing this movie in the theater with an audience.
Well, thanks. Thank you for the questions. Really sounds like you did your research, and I appreciate that very much.